Reed's ship was cold. His coffee was cold. And now, the warning lights on his screen were glowing red dot. At first, he thought it was a system glitch. But when the AI told him to reroute to Station Cora 9, an alien diplomatic station known for high-level orders, he realized something was wrong. He was a cargo pilot. He delivered spare parts, food, and sometimes space mail. He didn't deal with politics. He didn't deal with aliens. He didn't even deal with people if he could avoid it. But today, the universe had other plans, because when he landed, a group of strange officials greeted him with a smile, and one said, "You've been assigned a wife." Reed never liked stations. They were cramped, noisy, and filled with rules. But Station Cora 9 felt different the moment he stepped off his freighter. The air was clean. The walls shimmered with glowing alien script. The officers who met him wore long coats with symbols he didn't recognize. A translator bot floated near his ear and repeated what the head officer had just said. By interspecies agreement code 457C, human citizen Reed Mercer has been assigned a diplomatic companion from the Zilari people. Reed blinked. What does that mean? The officer's voice didn't change. You have been given a wife. Reed laughed, thinking it was a joke, but no one else was laughing. I didn't sign anything. I didn't request a. The officer raised a hand. It is part of Earth's new treaty. All solo interstellar. Travelers from human colonies must enter a companionship bond with a certified emotional support partner. It improves stability, cooperation, and diplomatic trust. I'm a delivery pilot, Reed barked. I carry parts and noodles. The officer smiled politely. And you are alone, which makes you eligible. Before Reed could protest more, the doors behind the council opened. Soft footsteps echoed. A small figure walked in, glowing under the station lights. She was shorter than most humans, with smooth pale skin that shimmered like pearl. Her long hair was tied in glowing threads, and her eyes were wide and luminous blue. She stopped in front of Reed. I am Lisa, she said softly. Her voice was calm, like quiet rain. I've been assigned to you. Reed didn't know what to say. He stared at her. She stared back, smiling gently. She didn't look threatening. In fact, she looked fragile, like something made of starlight and silk. But something about her eyes made Reed uneasy. They were too calm, too knowing. I don't need a wife, Reed muttered. Lisa tilted her head. Then perhaps you need someone to remind you how to live. Her words hit deeper than he expected. The council gave him a contract. It was written in human language. The terms were simple: shared quarters, mutual emotional support, no physical obligation unless agreed upon by both. It was more like a companionship treaty than a marriage. Reed wanted to refuse. He hated being told what to do. He especially hated surprises. But when he looked at Lisa again, something shifted. She didn't look excited. She didn't look in love. She looked prepared as if she had already accepted him long before he walked into this room. Later, in his assigned quarters, Reed sat on the edge of his bed. Lisa sat across from him on a bench near the glowing wall. They didn't speak for a while. Finally, he asked, "Why did you agree to this?" Lisa looked at him. "I've seen many humans through the council's archives. You were the only one who didn't hide his loneliness." "I didn't ask to be studied," he replied sharply. "I didn't ask to be assigned either." She answered softly. That shut him up. She stood, walked to the center of the room, and looked at the stars through the transparent dome. "I'm not here to control you," she said. "I'm not here to pretend to love you either." Reed looked at her, surprised by her honesty. "Then what are you here for?" Lisa turned to face him. "I'm here because ... Even the strongest humans need someone to sit beside them when the dark comes." Her words echoed ... and for the first time in a long time, Reed didn't know how to respond. Reed couldn't sleep. The hum of the space station was softer than the engines of his freighter. But tonight it felt louder, like it was whispering questions he didn't want to answer. He lay on the narrow bed, arms behind his head, eyes locked. On the smooth ceiling above. Every few minutes his eyes flicked to the other side of the room. She hadn't moved. Lisa sat on the floor, legs folded beneath her like a statue, her long white robe pooled around her like soft mist. Her eyes were open, glowing faintly in the dark, watching the stars through the window, or maybe just pretending to. He couldn't tell. Reed shifted uncomfortably. "You don't sleep?" "I do," she said without turning. "But you're not sleeping, so I'm not. That's not how it works." She glanced at him, soft and patient. "It is how bonding works." Reed sat up, rubbing his face. "This whole thing is insane. You sitting there like you belong here. Me pretending this is just a bad dream." Lisa stood. Her movements were smooth, almost weightless. "I don't pretend." "Then what do you call this?" he asked, gesturing around the room. "You, me, this forced pairing. What is it to you?" She stepped closer, her bare feet silent against the floor. "To me, it is a chance. A chance for what?" "To matter to someone," she said simply. Reed froze. She didn't say it dramatically. There was no sadness in her voice. Just truth. As if she'd spoken the words 1,000 times before, and each time they hurt a little less. He looked away. "I didn't ask for this," he muttered. "I know," she said. He heard her step back toward the window. "I didn't ask to be alone either," he added, almost too quietly. This time, she didn't reply. They stayed in silence for a while. The stars outside blinked and moved slowly as the station rotated. Somewhere, deep in the hull, a cargo door hissed open, then sealed shut again. Life in space continued quiet, cold, and distant. But inside this room, something warmer had started. To flicker. The next day, Reed tried to go about his routine. He checked his ship, logged his hours, argued with the AI about engine recalibrations. But wherever he went, Lisa followed, always just a few steps behind. She didn't ask questions. She didn't touch anything. She simply watched. He couldn't decide if it was comforting or creepy. Finally, when they were inside the freighter's cockpit, he snapped. "Do you have to hover like that? I'm not going to break." "I know," she said calmly. "Then stop acting like I'm made of glass." Lisa blinked, and for the first time, her tone shifted slightly. "I'm not watching to protect you. I'm watching to understand." "Understand?" What it's like to be you?" Reed raised an eyebrow. "Why would you want to know that?" "Because humans confuse me," she said softly, stepping forward. "You all carry so much pain in silence. And when someone offers to help, you push them away. Why is that?" He scoffed. "Because we've learned not to trust people who smile while they study us." That made her stop. Reed thought she'd argue. Instead, she just nodded slowly, as if she finally understood something. "You're not wrong," she whispered. Before he could respond, a sharp beep echoed through the cockpit. The freighter's comlink flashed. Reed frowned and tapped the console. Incoming message? From who? The hologram blinked to life. A tall alien figure appeared, dressed in regal garments, with eyes that shimmered like glass. Lisa went stiff. Alien spoke in sharp, clipped tones. The translator translated instantly. "Zalari Bond Unit 4-7 has been activated without full permission. Immediate reassessment is required. The companion is to return for mental reevaluation." Reed stood. "Whoa, hold on." "She's not going anywhere." The figure's image turned toward him. "You are not authorized to override the Council's order." Reed looked at Lisa. Her face had lost all color. Her breathing was shallow. She wasn't scared, she was shutting down. "Lisa," he said, "what's happening?" She didn't answer. The transmission ended. Reed took a step toward her. "Talk to me." Finally, she looked at him. "They're going to take me back," she said. "And once they do, they'll erase the bond. I'll forget you." Reed felt something crack inside him. You're not some tool to be reset. You're a person. Her voice was barely a whisper now. To them, I'm an experiment gone too far. Reed clenched his fists. He didn't know why he cared so much. He'd known her for a day. She was still a mystery, still strange and quiet and full of secrets. But the thought of her being taken, changed, erased made his chest tighten in a way he hadn't felt in years. He reached out and grabbed her hand. Her skin was cool, softer than he expected. She looked up in surprise. You're not going anywhere, he said firmly. Not without me. And for the first time since she arrived, Lisa looked scared, not of him, but of hope. And hope, she knew, was the most dangerous feeling of all. The Zalari were a proud species, silent, elegant, and deeply cautious of human emotion. Lisa had broken every rule just by speaking to Reed with warmth. Bonding with him, even temporarily, was considered dangerous by her kind. But volunteering for the assignment, that had nearly gotten her exiled. She had stood in front of the Council of 12, head bowed, hands still. You wish to bind yourself to a human male, one with no rank? No heritage? They had asked. I do. You have. Not even touched minds with him. I don't need to. I saw him in the drift. The council had gone silent then. Because the drift, a rare, half-vision that occurred only in sleep, was not something to ignore. And in that vision, Lisa had seen a man sitting alone in a silent ship. A man who said nothing, but felt everything. His grief pressed against the walls of her dream like water pressing against glass. She saw the weight of his loneliness and didn't flinch. She saw his silence and didn't fear it. That was why she accepted the bond, and now, here she was, standing in a cargo bay that smelled like grease and melted insulation, watching that same man yell at the eye, scream like it had personally offended him. Reed slammed the console again. Denied? What do you mean denied? The ship's eye chirped. Your request to break orbit has been denied. Reason: pending investigation into your companion's neural instability. Lisa spoke softly. They've locked us in. Reed turned to her, eyes sharp. Because of you? She nodded once. I'm not safe to them anymore. He took a step back as if trying to figure out whether to be angry or scared. Lisa didn't blame him. Do you want me to go? She asked. Reed blinked. What? I'll tell them you refused the bond, that you never accepted me, that it was all an error. Reed stared at her. A week ago, he would have said yes without a second thought. But now, things weren't so simple. She wasn't loud. She wasn't dramatic. She didn't argue or complain or pretend to be cheerful. She just listened. And somehow, that was worse. Because it meant she noticed everything. Like how his hand shook a little when he held his cup in the morning. How he avoided the center seat in the cockpit because it reminded him of someone. She never asked. Why did she just let the silence sit next to him? Warm and patient. Now she was offering to leave to protect him, but it felt more like a goodbye he hadn't prepared for. You're not going anywhere, he said finally. A small flicker of light passed through her eyes. Then we need a plan, she said. Because they'll come for me soon, Reed frowned. Why are they so afraid of you? She hesitated. Then she walked over to the panel on the wall and pressed her hand against it. The lights dimmed. The metal around her fingertips glowed slightly, responding to her touch without any wires or code. I'm not just an empath, she said. My mind doesn't just feel pain. Joy, it reacts to it. Reed watched the glowing lines move under her skin. What does that mean? It means if you suffer, I suffer. If you burn, I burn. She looked up. But if someone hurts you, I might hurt them back. Reed took a slow step back. You're saying you're dangerous? I'm saying I was built for connection, but they trained me to be silent. Now that I've bonded with you, that silence is breaking. The ship suddenly shook. Reed glanced at the monitors. A council cruiser had docked above them, The doors would open soon. We have to run, Lysa said, stepping closer. There's a zone beneath the dock's old maintenance tunnels. They won't scan us there. Reed didn't move. Why me? He asked suddenly. You could have bonded. With anyone, someone important, someone useful. Why choose a broken pilot with no future? Lysa looked at him, not with pity, but with something deeper. Because you don't pretend, she said. You hurt, but you keep going. That makes you stronger than most. The door alarm buzzed 3 tones, slow and final. They were being boarded. Reed reached for his jacket. You better know how to crawl through tunnels. Lysa smiled for the first time that day. I was raised in shadows, remember? As the hatch blew open and lights flooded in, they vanished into the maintenance shaft side by side, breathless and running. Behind them, the council guards entered an empty ship, but they were already gone. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, Reed felt something other than anger or confusion. He felt alive. The metal tunnels groaned beneath their boots as they ran. Steam hissed from broken vents. The lights above flickered, casting flashes across their faces like a silent alarm system made of shadows. Every few steps, Lysa would glance behind them, her pale skin glowing faintly in the dark. Reed didn't need to ask if they were being followed. He could hear the distant clang of boots behind them, but what he couldn't figure out was why he cared so much. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't even brave. He was a pilot with a rusted ship, unpaid fuel bills, and enough bad memories to sink a cruiser. And yet, here he was running into the underbelly of an alien station with a strange woman whose people wanted her erased. And calling her his, they slid behind a broken hatch, gasping for breath. Lysa pressed her hand against the wall, and the metal around her shimmered, disguising the door just enough to fool surface scans. Reed sat down hard, rubbing the sweat from his brow. You all right? She nodded slowly, breathing steady. You? Not dead yet, so that's a good sign. There was a moment of quiet, filled only by the distant thrum of the station's core. Reed looked at her. Why didn't you tell me earlier about what you can do? I didn't think you'd trust me. He laughed dryly. You were right. She tilted her head. And now? He paused. Thought about the way she'd pulled him away just before the guards broke in. The way she touched the walls like they remembered her. The way she never once tried to control him, even when she could have. Now I think you're hiding even more. Lysa smiled faintly. I am. He wasn't sure if he should be impressed or terrified. Before he could say more, a low vibration rolled through the wall beside them. Lisa's eyes narrowed. They've activated pulse sensors, she said. They're scanning for movement. Can you block it? No, she said, but I can distract them. Wait, what does that mean? She placed a hand on his chest light as a whisper. Stay here. Trust me. Then she stepped back into the tunnel, lifted her chin, and walked straight into the scanning beam. Reed's heart nearly stopped. A moment later, the scanner blinked red and then burst with a pop of static. She didn't even flinch. Guards on the far end shouted, voices echoing down the hall. But when they turned the corner, all they saw was a flicker of light disappearing behind the next bend. Lysa returned a minute later, untouched. Reed stared at her. You overloaded the scanner, she nodded. It listens for intention. I gave it none. You make that sound so casual, she shrugged. I was raised to be quiet in loud rooms. Reed stood, brushing off his jacket. We can't hide forever. Sooner or later, they'll send something meaner. They already have. He stopped. What? Lysa's expression turned serious. They've activated the overseer. It's not a person, it's a machine. It hunts emotional patterns. And it's already locked onto yours. Mine? Why mine? Because you claimed me, Reed frowned. I didn't. You did, she said gently. When you told them I was yours, that was enough. His breath caught. He remembered it clearly. Now how angry he'd felt. How fast the words had come out. She's mine now. He hadn't even meant to say it. It just happened. Like some part of him had leapt ahead before his brain caught up. And now? He asked. Now you're part of this, Lysa said. They won't erase just me. They'll erase what I awakened in you. Reed looked down at his hands. He remembered feeling hollow for so long, numb for so long. And now, suddenly, he was running through tunnels, his heart racing, his body alive with adrenaline, and all because of her. So what do we do? He asked. Lysa knelt beside a cracked control panel and tapped into the old interface. There's a dock on the lower level. Forgotten, too old for modern ships. But I saw it once in the council maps. If we can reach it, your freighter might still fit. You're telling me to run? I'm telling you to choose. Reed stared at her. Her eyes weren't glowing now. They looked scared, not for herself, for him. I don't even know you, he whispered. She nodded. Then run. Be safe. He stepped forward. Tough luck, he said. I don't leave people behind. Her breath hitched. Reed grinned faintly. You're my wife, right? That made her laugh for the first time. Technically, yes. Then let's go before they crash our honeymoon. They ran again, deeper this time. The lights grew weaker, the walls older. Every corner echoed with metal memories. And just before the tunnel bent toward the forgotten docks, Lysa reached out and grabbed his hand. He looked at her. No matter what happens next, she said, thank you. He squeezed back, gently. Then they vanished into the dark. The old docks were nothing like the polished upper stations. Down here, everything was rusted, broken, and left to rot in silence. Metal beams hung like ribs from the ceiling. Broken panels sparked and fizzled. Strange growths glowed in corners, feeding off the leaking plasma lines. This place hadn't seen life in years. Reed stepped over a collapsed walkway, holding Lysa's hand as they climbed down toward the access tunnel. Every sound they made felt louder down here, boots on metal, breath in the air, heartbeat in his ears. Are you sure your map memory's still right? He asked, eyeing a sealed blast door covered in ancient warning glyphs. Yes, Lysa replied without hesitation. We're close, he smirked. You don't leave room for doubt, do you? She paused, then looked at him with that calm stare he was beginning to understand. I've lived my whole life with people doubting me, she said. It teaches you to sound sure, even when you aren't. Reed nodded, silently respecting that more than he could say. The final hallway bent sharply and opened into a massive hangar, dark, wide, and mostly buried in shadows. Crates were stacked like dead giants along the walls. The air smelled of cold metal and burned fuel. And there, near the edge of the landing bay, half covered in dust and forgotten cables, sat Reed's ship. The Wren. Still ugly, he muttered. With a grin. Still yours, Lysa said, watching him as if the ship told her something about the man who flew it. They hurried across the hangar, stepping over cracked floor tiles and at active loader bots. Reed ran a hand along the hull, and to his surprise, the ship's core blinked to life with a low, familiar hum. She missed you, Lysa said. She better, Reed said, already pulling open the hatch. Because we don't have time for her to be moody. Inside, the freighter was just as he'd left it, cluttered, unpolished, but functional. He dropped into the pilot's seat and ran a quick diagnostic. Engines, responsive. Life support, unstable but working. Weapons, basically useless. Shields, laughable. Not exactly built for a high-speed escape, he muttered. Lysa appeared beside him, her fingers gently brushing over the navigation console. Then we'll have to be smarter, not faster. You got any more neat tricks? Her eyes twinkled. A few. Suddenly, the ship's alert system blared. A signal had locked onto them, fast, sharp, and unlike any regular patrol signature. Reed stared at the screen. That's not a tracking beacon, he said. That's a hunter drone. Lysa didn't move. It's the overseer. The console flickered, and for a split second, a face flashed across the screen, half machine, half organic, with eyes like polished stone. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. The weight of its presence was enough. Get the ship in the air, Lysa whispered. Reed's hands moved fast. He lifted off from the hangar, boosting through the side wall as emergency doors slammed behind them. Alarms echoed across the station. Sirens screamed, but Reed was already pushing them into the ducts between outer panels. Flying blind, trusting instinct and memory. Where do we go? He shouted. There's a breach point on the station's dark side. No eyes, no signals. If we jump there, we might get out before it follows. Might? I said we had a chance. I didn't say it was good. The ship jerked violently. The overseer had launched something, a black mass of pulsing drones. They latched onto the outer hull like spiders. Sparks flew. Hull integrity dropped to 60%. Reed cursed. We won't make it. Do you trust me? Lysa asked. He looked at her, at the girl he barely knew. The one who was supposed to be his emotional support. The one who could break scanners with a look and shut down systems with her thoughts. And suddenly, all the chaos around them, the alarms, the crashing metal, the smell of fire, it all blurred into silence. Yeah, he said, I do. She closed her eyes. Light bloomed from her skin, soft at first, then burning like a small star. Her hands pressed against the console, not typing, just feeling. The ship responded. Systems that should have been dead came alive. Reed watched as the shields flared blue for the first time in years. The drones on the hull sparked and dropped off like ash. The Wren moved faster than it ever had, engines pushing through the tunnel like it was made of wind instead of steel. And as they reached the dark edge of the station, Lysa opened her eyes. Now, she said. Reed hit the jump, a blinding flash. Then silence. The ship vanished into the black, stars spinning, space folding around them. Inside the cockpit, Lysa leaned back in the seat, her glow fading. Reed looked over. Are you okay? She gave a tired smile. That took more than I expected. Are we safe? For now. He leaned back, letting out a long breath, and then he laughed loud, sharp, and full of disbelief. I was supposed to be delivering noodles today. Lysa laughed too, softer. And I was supposed to be quiet and forgettable. They sat there, side by side, floating in the aftermath of chaos. Not quite safe, not quite together, but no longer running alone. The stars outside spun like slow sparks in the dark, their light stretching and warping around the ship as the Wren drifted just outside known space. Reed had seen hyperspace distortions before, most pilots had, but never like this. It was like floating through a dream that didn't know if it wanted to become a nightmare. Lysa hadn't moved for nearly 10 minutes. She sat slumped in the co-pilot's seat, eyes closed, her glow dimmed to a faint pulse under her skin. She looked peaceful, but something about the way her fingers twitched said otherwise. Reed leaned over, hesitating. Then he reached out and touched her shoulder. Hey, you still with me? Her eyes opened slowly. And when they did, he saw something new. She wasn't just tired. She was afraid. You shouldn't have trusted me, she whispered. Reed blinked. That's a hell of a thing to say after you saved my ship. Lysa shook her head. You don't understand. I didn't just power the ship. I merged with it. Reed froze. What does that mean? It means your ship, your systems, your signals. They're no longer yours alone. Part of me lives inside now. And part of me, the part they tried to bury, is awake. She stood slowly, as if testing her own balance. The air around her shimmered faintly. The static in the ship's monitors pulsed in sync with her breathing. I'm not just an empath, Reed. I was born with something else, something banned. My thoughts don't just read emotions, they shape energy. They rewrite it. Reed's voice dropped. Telekinesis? She nodded once. Buried deep, controlled, suppressed with inhibitors since I was a child. That's why they trained me to be still, to listen, to never react. Because if I react too hard, things break. The realization hit him hard. And you bonded with me knowing all this? I didn't think I could lose control, she said. Not with you. Reed stood, running a hand through his hair. He felt the walls tighten around him. Not physically, but emotionally. Like the ship itself was reacting to the fear rising in his chest. Lysa felt it too. That's what I meant, she whispered. Your thoughts aren't just yours anymore. They echo in me. And mine echo in the ship. The connection's already deeper than we were prepared for. Reed stared at the control panel. Every light, every hum, every flicker, it was responding to her. Which meant it was responding to them. Can you control it? She didn't answer immediately. Yes, but not if I feel too much. And what happens if you do? Her voice lowered. Then I stop being me. And I become something else. Reed looked at her for a long moment. He remembered the way her hand had glowed when she touched the console. He remembered the way the Overseer's drones disintegrated. How the ship moved like it had grown wings. He remembered thinking, just for a second, that she looked like a star about to explode. You saved me, he said. I endangered you. Maybe, he admitted, but I don't feel endangered right now. She looked surprised. I feel seen, he added. I feel like someone finally understands what I've been too tired to say. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to argue, but couldn't. Reed stepped closer. You said your people made you hide who you are, made you quiet. But I don't want you quiet, Lysa. I want to hear you. Even if your voice shakes a few ships. She laughed just a little, and the sound made the lights above them blink. He looked up. Okay, maybe not that loud. But she smiled. The tension between them faded for a moment. The space inside the ship, once filled with fear, now held something else. Warmth, connection. Then the console beeped sharply. A signal, encrypted. Old. Lysa moved first. She scanned the signal, her brow furrowed. It's not the council, it's Rogue. Rogue. Reed echoed. She tapped into it, and a hologram bloomed in front of them. It showed a Zalari male, older, scarred, with half a metal face and deep-set eyes. I am Commander Solon. If you're hearing this, you've escaped the Overseer. That makes you dangerous or useful, Lysa inhaled sharply. That's one of the exiled. Reed raised an eyebrow. I didn't know your people had exiles. We don't, she said. Not officially. The message continued. We need you, you and your bond partner. Come to the edges of no signal space. We're gathering the lost. The ones who think, feel, and fight differently. And the ones who've stopped apologizing for it. The signal ended. Reed looked at her. Lysa was silent again, but not in fear this time. In wonder. You okay? He asked. She nodded. For the first time in a long time, I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. He walked to the console, set a course toward the coordinates in the message, and took his seat again. You still scared of feeling too much? He asked. Lysa sat beside him. Yes, she said, but I think I want to try anyway. And as the ship jumped again, faster this time, smoother this time, Reed felt it too. The shift, the bond, the beginning of something neither of them could name yet, but both finally stopped running from. The edge of no signal space was like nothing Reed had ever seen. There were no stars here, just an endless stretch of dark matter, so still it almost looked painted. No comms worked, no scans returned. It was where ships went missing, and governments pretended not to notice, but floating within that darkness, hidden beneath layered cloaks and silent satellites, was a station, not like the polished kind. Reed had docked it before. This one looked alive. It pulsed with soft energy veins running across its hull. Alien metals twisted into shapes that mimicked plant life and bone. It didn't rotate, it breathed. Like a creature in hibernation. The wren approached slowly, guided by unseen hands, until it docked with a quiet click. No alarms, no commands. Just an open invitation. Reed and Lysa stepped onto the walkway. The air was strangely warm, gentle, as if the station had adapted to them before they even arrived. Lysa walked ahead of him, silent but focused. She was glowing again, but not the dangerous kind. This glow was soft, like embers instead of flames. They were greeted by a woman with silver tattoos along her neck, her eyes like glass but kind. She said no words, simply nodded once, then led them through winding halls into a central chamber. And there stood Commander Solen. His mechanical eye blinked slowly as he regarded them. "So," he said, "the bonded pair, the Council's mistake." Reed crossed his arms. "Funny, they made it sound like we were the mistake." Solen gave a dry smile. "Every revolution starts with someone being called an error." Lysa stepped forward. "Why us?" "Because you did something most of our people never do," Solen replied. "You broke the script." He gestured to a table where other beings sat Zalari human. Even species Reed didn't recognize. All of us were once told to hide, to be quiet, to bend. And all of us reached a point where we said, "No more." You reached that point. Together. Reed looked at Lysa. He remembered the first moment he saw her standing calm, while the world tried to assign her to him like a tool. And now she stood tall, unafraid, no longer asking to belong. Solen leaned forward. "You felt the overseer in your mind, didn't you?" Lysa nodded slowly. "It tried to erase me. It failed," Solen said. "Because of him." He turned to Reed. "You weren't supposed to care. That's what they count on. They think humans love quick, leave quicker. They never expect you to stay." Reed's jaw tightened. "She wasn't just a bond. She was a choice." That sentence hung in the air like fire. Solen finally sat. "Then stay. With us. Help us build something the Council can't predict." Lysa turned to Reed, a question in her eyes. He didn't hesitate. "We're not running anymore." Later that night, they stood on a balcony overlooking the dark void. The stars beyond the boundary line shimmered like distant candles. Lysa leaned against the rail. "This still doesn't feel real," Reed smirked. "You mean the part where I went from hauling spare parts to being part of an interstellar rebellion? Or the part where my wife glows and might bend physics with her thoughts?" She rolled her eyes. "I'm not your wife." "You sure?" he asked. She hesitated, then smiled, maybe a little. They stood there in silence, hands brushing, hearts still catching up to everything they'd seen. Then Lysa said something that made Reed go still. "I didn't just see you in a dream, Reed. I felt you. Before the Council ever told me your name. You were waiting, like a star waiting to be lit." Reed didn't know what to say. For once, words weren't enough. So he stepped closer. "And she didn't pull away." She whispered, "They trained me never to feel too deeply. Never to hold on." He took her hand. "Then hold on to me." And in that moment, amid all the chaos, war, and danger still waiting for them, Lysa leaned into him. Warm and certain. No more assignments. No more control. Just two people who weren't supposed to find each other and did. In a galaxy that tried to erase emotions. They were writing their own story, and it had only just begun.